Alright everyone, welcome back. And today is a video that a lot of people have been asking for, and I think it's a great time to put it out there as we get ready for the next season, Season 3 of War of Nova. And what this video is basically, what should I be focusing on? What capital ships should I be trying to get out of my chests? And today we're going to answer that question as best as possible. So let's take a look at our recruitment area here. So I'm going to start with Sovereign. I think there's a few on here that are worth going over, but I feel like a lot more of the ships on the Dominion side are ones people seek out. But here's my wish list. So for me, I'm trying to get the Hammerhead and the Moonveil out of the epic ships, and the Starweaver and the Aegis out of the gold ships. The rares don't matter as much because I believe everyone gets those automatically, but I have been trying to get Radiant and Sylph schematics, mostly the Sylph just because I want to test it out a little bit more. But if you want me to be honest, I think if you get rid of Sylph and go Emberhelm, that's the better way to go. These two ships are probably the better rares that you're going to get on the Sovereign side. And there's a few purples that are pretty decent to try to pick up out of here. I've seen Mjolnir can be pretty strong if leveled up high enough. Mastery. But I think the two main ones that you should focus are Hammerhead and Moonveil. So without further ado, let's take a look at those ships. So I'm going to go in the purples here. We're going to take a look at Moonveil, and it's a cool looking ship, somewhat. Nothing to write home about. Some of these ships aren't super fantastic, but the reason this ship is sought out is for its PvE abilities. This ship will basically carry you through a lot of your PvE scenarios from early game all the way to end game with the 300s. So the Dark Fang, if you have it high enough, is really good. But that ship is very, very specific to needing the Basilisk to reach 100% potential. This ship will not need that. So, I'm just throwing points in here because I don't have it high enough. It's recommended that you have, I believe, Mastery 3 for it to really reach a strong potential. But, as you can see, you have a lot of healing abilities on this ship. So, we have Elder and Blessing, healing. We have decreased damage. We have increased defense. We have healing. We have healing. We have, let's see, Eldercraft and Terracraft boost here. This is an interesting one to have. Just keep in mind this first strike is nice to have here. Allows your strike craft to act first. And then you have some stuff up here which is nice to note. So let's see. We have a big one here in Radiation Syndrome, which allows the other ship to not recover HP for 2 rounds. That's huge. Then you have up here a chance to inflict confusion. So it's a random chance of getting a debuff, but one of those can be confusion, and that's huge. So definitely keep in mind too, if you max out this laser turrets, your normal attacks now inflict radiation damage, which will mean they're more based off your elemental stat, which is higher base for the ship than your power. And usually elemental is what you're going to want to go with on this ship to improve it. But that's huge. And then if you get to tier 5, we don't really care about this Elder and Strikecraft. But if you notice, this is a deal damage and heal 2 units ability. Huge. And then another one, round 7 onwards, to Strikecraft, recover HP. So there's so much HP potential on this ship. Huge, huge, huge for PvE. It has potential for PvP, and it is a tough ship when you come up against it in PvP, but there are hard counters um, for that ship, especially anything that blocks healing, obviously, is going to be huge. And I've found that the Corruptor is one of the better ones against it, and there's a couple others, but that's why the use for it is mainly PvE, because there are a lot of hard counters with blocking healing, and ships that cause a lot of confusion. You can end up actually healing other ships on the enemy team. So definitely keep in mind that. The other one here for the purple is going to be the Hammerhead. So this ship is a Mastery 5 beast. So that's when it really comes alive. I don't know too much about it because obviously I'm not Mastery 5, I'm not even Mastery 3 yet, so I haven't really played with it at all. But a couple of my teammates love this ship, has very high potential, and kind of looks cool. You know, just a big beefy block with that extra fin in the front, making it look like a hammerhead shark. But won't go too much into that. I want to keep this very short video. Again, the Mjolnir is not one that's really used by a lot of people, but it is one of those ships that has high potential, and we have seen a couple times where someone had one of these and has done pretty good damage to some of our stronger ships. So, Ember Helm, there's a couple bugs with this ship. Some good, some bad, but overall, it's a pretty decent ship to get and work on. Let's see here. Yeah, so pretty early on, you get access to a couple of healing abilities, which are really nice, and then you get damage received from close range strike craft reduce percentage wise, which is good because a lot of the main ship strike craft that people use are the close range ones. And then just overall high damage potential ship. So let's see, you know, chance to deal additional damage. So just a lot of potential here, and a lot of interesting stuff going on with that ship. The other one is the Radiant, and unfortunately, you know, this ship was nerfed from first season. I guess it was really strong, and before we started, it was nerfed. So not much to say about it from strong point standard from there. Some of our guys have had really good builds for this ship for PvP that have held up pretty strong. But the main thing is this ability right here is going to be vital. So this is the strongest siege ship in the game. It will increase each unit or strike craft that you have its siege plus 15. So this is a big boost in siege damage. And then when we're looking at these ones, so I don't have any of these, but the ones to really look out for are Aegis, Paladin, and Starweaver. These are the three that you know should really work on trying to get. I've seen the Aegis quite a bit, and I believe that is the one that I have on my wish list. So yep, that is my wish listed one. So you know it's definitely a strong ship for countering a couple different things. So those are the Sovereign side, and we're going to jump into Dominion. So on my wish list, I have Darkfang and Cypher. Omnis, never see it. Basically, we're thinking that's quite useless. It looks like it might have potential, but no one's really been able to find something that works for it. So, and the Dread, that one you should get to Mastery 3 and then just never bother with again. And the thing about that is also for siege damage. Now, unfortunately, that one only increases plus 10, so it's not as big of a increase. But it is obviously worth it to get to that Mastery 3 to get that ability. Now, as far as purples, I'm gonna be honest, Dominion has a ton of really solid purple epic ships to look into. I would say pretty much everything in here is worth looking into. Omen, I haven't really seen a whole lot of. Ravager, I haven't seen a whole lot of. But pretty much every other epic ship is worth taking a look at. Now, as far as golds, it's tough to really recommend golds across the board. I'm just giving you golds that I've seen other players using that are much higher ranked, that have played a little bit longer and have them higher up or spent more money for them. But pretty much every gold doesn't really come alive until Mastery 5 because you need a lot of those late skills to really achieve max potential, and that's expensive. So it's really hard to tell you to focus any. With that being said, the number one gold ship to focus right now, unless they nerf it, is the Dominus. It does have hard counters. There's, I believe, 2 hard counters specifically for it. One of them is the Widow, which is a ship I'm going to show you in a minute. But it is the number one most used gold ship, and it is strong. I have the Kraken on here because I want to level it up and try some builds on it. That was my first legendary ship I achieved in this game, and I had really good success early on with it, but as I started coming up against higher level players that had stronger ships, it wasn't as effective, unfortunately, but I still think there's promise there. However, what we've seen a couple other players use are the Harbinger, which is one that a couple people in my guild want to get, and Astroth, which some people use as a pather, others use to fight, but it is one of the more common ones to use. So I don't recommend the Kraken unless you're really willing to push to try to get that to Mastery 5 or higher. And it is a very interesting ship. There's a couple bugs on it, for sure, where they did nerf that ship. It was the number one ship early on, and then when they tried to patch it, it ended up buggy, and things don't just quite work on it right now. But I want to test out a couple things with it and see where I can go with it. But let's take a look at that side of things, the Dominion side. So as you can see, I have a lot more of the Dominion ships than I do the Sovereign. That's just because I've been focusing on trying to get more of the purple epic ship schematics, and I've just happened to get more, oh, and the Cypher as well, out of it. So I do have a lot more of these. But I'm going to start out with the rares on this one, because the Cypher is basically the big daddy of this game, and it is one of the hardest ships to beat. Now, there are hard counters, they do exist. However, the damage potential that that ship has is insane, and unfortunately, a lot of the players who have spent more money in this game and have gold commanders that increase initiative higher are winning much easier with it, because if you're the first to hit with that ship, even if it's Cypher versus Cypher, that person's usually the one who wins. It's just a tremendously strong ship. Definitely highly recommend picking up. The other one I would recommend out of here is the Dark Fang, and that's for the PvE aspect. So if you don't have Moonveil, or you don't have it really leveled up mastery-wise to where you need it to be for full effectiveness, the Dark Fang will fill in that void. It works best mono-stacked, and with a mono-stack healer in that 4th officer slot to really get the most healing out of it. And I'd say probably Mastery 3 is when it really fully comes alive, but you can make it work underneath that. But I'm at a point where I have my build pretty well set up, and I can take a 300 without any losses from a huge level disadvantage once I unlock the T3 Basilisk from Ograx, that strike craft, because it really really works well with that ship. There's ways to decrease the damage that Ograx ships take, increase the damage output, just a lot of synchronization there that works for it with that Ogrex Basilisk, and that's how you can achieve those, strong tiles. But again, this is like the low budget PvE choice, and there are some others. And honestly, Moonveil doesn't need to be Mastery 3 for you to really achieve what you want with it, but that's where you get the most potential. So we're gonna jump up here to the epics. So like I said, all the ones I have unlocked are pretty much what you're gonna want to focus on. So whichever one you get first, start there. The Widow is the hard counter for the Dominus right now, so it's definitely highly recommended to look out for that one. Corruptor as well is a really, really strong ship. It's, in my opinion, the Swiss Army knife, and I would say that this is one of those ones you definitely want to try to get. Overlord as well is really strong, but unfortunately Mastery 5 is where it reaches full potential. So if you want to go with this route, definitely you can. It's like the cheaper version of the Dominus. It's very similar, even in its looks. But the Cryptic is one I've been working on. It has high potential. There's a couple bugs with it, so if they work those out, it actually can do more than it does now. But it's a fun ship to use, and again, if you get that one, you can focus that. And the Machina is another one that has high potential. There's a couple bugs in that where it's not quite as strong as it could be. There's a couple bugs with that one. I'm not just gonna leave it there. It doesn't work quite as intended, but still a very strong ship. Sunder, very PvE focused, so it doesn't show it as a healing ship, but it really is focused on that type of stuff, and being able to increase your power and do a couple things. That ship's an interesting one, but definitely PvE focused there, and yeah. So honestly, like I said, the Corruptor is probably the one you want to focus on, and if the Dominus stays as strong as it is, probably the Widow. But you can throw in any other one behind the Corruptor that you want. Going golds. So again, Dominus, the ship to go for. It really peaks at this level, or Mastery 5, when you can start unlocking some of these other abilities here. So, give your long-range strike craft another chance to follow up. Yeah, those sub skills aren't really ones that I'm looking at. It's this one right here that's huge, increasing normal attack damage for your capital ship, which you can then have. Let's see, you can have confusion chance each round, and I believe there's a follow-up ability somewhere on this ship. No, it does not. So this one, I'm not really sure how it's set up, to be honest with you, but I know there's some good stuff. If you watch along, the skills strong, but I don't have it high enough to really focus on, so I haven't yet. But it's definitely a strong ship with a lot of potential, and there's a couple commanders that really bring it alive. Now, the Kraken's an interesting one. Looks kind of cool, and has some cool like double up damage abilities. This is bugged. It never recovers. I've never seen the 10% chance hit ever, which is unfortunate, but it's like, why even have it on there if it's not working? But you do get this 6% chance of double tap, which is very consistent. It does work a lot of the time. And then you get a double damage hit here. So not only can you do physical damage with your standard attack, but you can also cause an additional 50% energy damage. Over here, you can increase the amount of energy damage your capital ship does, and then we don't even bother with the skill down here. But when we get over here, this is where it starts to come alive at Master 3 a little bit. Not full potential, but you can get standard attacks cause enemy stats to decrease for a round, and you get a couple other sub skills here that don't really matter too much. And then when you get to Mastery 5, I don't really like any of these too much as far as the abilities. Um, this one could be interesting because it will increase damage received by heavy craft, and those are the tanks, and a lot of people use those. My main thing is that when you get higher mastery, I feel like you should really just focus more on these other abilities, leveling them up higher. So if you can get this to 10, so 15, 10 here, all these maxed out, and then you start working on this one as well, this ship, I believe, will have huge potential. So unfortunately, I think Mastery 10 is where that's going to be the most apparent to be able to do, but not there quite yet, so I haven't been able to test that out. But I think there's some opportunities there, and if again, if you can get that initiative up, so this ship at 41 has 401 initiative, which is pretty high in and of itself. Um, you know, this one's going to have high initiative well. So gold ships just have higher stats generally. But if you have any questions or input, or you want to hear more about what we went over today, feel free to reach out, leave a message on this YouTube, and see me in Discord or in the send me a DM in the game, and I will do my best to answer. I do field questions all the time on Discord, so I've went back and forth with people on what works, what might not work, and a couple different setups already. So again, those are the ships I believe should focus. Really early game, if you're just starting out, just focus what you are already unlocking and go from there. But there's a couple of ideas I put in there for what you should focus down the road. Um, and honestly, I'm going to throw this out there as a disclaimer. This is all dependent on right now. If the devs nerf or balance anything or change anything up, this video honestly will potentially change on what's good and what's not. We have definitely reached out to the devs on hopes that they would balance the disparities in statistics between the ships a little bit. Obviously, you want a slight advantage for your gold ships, but again, I think you saw, and we'll take a look at my ships. So I have an initiative of 326 on a level 48 Cypher. If I go to my level 8 Astaroth, it's at 383 initiative. And that is crazy. So looking at, the Kraken again, 401 initiative at level 41 to 326, which, I can probably boost up a little higher if I add something else on. Actually, no, I think I have all the people that boost initiative on already, so, I can't go much higher than that right now, 326. And that just really shows you that disparity between the levels for initiative, and we're hoping that they can fix that in the future to close that gap a little bit, because honestly, usually the first person to hit in a fight wins. For a lot of ships, others not so much. I mean, depends on what skills they have, but if we can close that gap and make it so it's not as big, that would be fantastic. Also, we've asked them to lower the initiative boost that gold officers offer as well, so those who've spent more money don't necessarily have a huge advantage. Kind of close that gap, because we don't want that to be the reason why it's not fun, that people spend more money. We want to have it competitive, and obviously there's going to be some benefits to having, someone who has higher stars than their gold commanders. Obviously it's going to happen, but we want to see some of that change. And again, devs can change anything at any moment and really throw this video off, so just keep that as a note. But as of right now, those are my recommendations. So have a good